Oh, well, hi.
Hi.
Good to know. Welcome to the first video in a series of videos we hope to do, titled Arguing the Bible. Um, Arguing is a funky word, but sometimes we will be arguing it. But basically what we are seeking to do is to have some productive discussions about certain things that are in the Bible in terms of wording and how it's taught and its present day application. So many things are left for what people like to call interpretation, and what it will do is it will leave a lot of us confused, and it'll make you question, what to believe, if you should believe anything. So what we seek to do is to add some open dialogue, about what it is that's actually being said, how does it apply, and frankly, what's myth, what's real, what's, is it a history book? Is it is it a guide to life? Is it is it fake?
To give some clarity as to insight into who we are. My co-host here is a very devout Christian, unshakable faith. He believes every single word in the Bible. Right?
This is true.
Okay.
Or its application.
Right.
Hi.
This is our pooch.
Yes. Who joins us often.
And myself, how would you describe?
She is a tough believer. It takes quite a bit to get her to believe. She has questions, as all of humanity should. She's not afraid to ask the questions, and she's not afraid to embrace the what if that is not exactly true? What if that's full of it? What if it's BS? Even if it's in the sacred holy book, if you will. So she is what I would say all people should aspire to be, in the sense that she'll question it, but the faith, resides within her, so that if you can get her to understand and see it, see it for what it is, then at that point, she'll accept the information, as opposed to fighting it for the heck of fighting. So that's how I would describe my host, which is how we ended up in this situation to begin with. One day we'll get into the Mary story that started this all off 7-8 years ago. But as for now, we have another topic that we would like to address.
So he's going to take the more spiritual approach to any discussion we have. I'm going to take the more scholarly, prove or disprove approach to the discussions that we have, while still having a faith base, just not, as strong or as...
Well, not without question. You'll have your questions. It won't be this is unquestionably true. That's not your approach to it.
No.
It might be true. It might not be true. It might be relevant. It might not be relevant.
There may be things that I am going to disprove. There may be things that I am not going to disprove. But either way, I'm on a quest.
That's actually the right way to describe it. Just a quest for the balance of knowledge versus spirituality and faith. I would say that that's accurate above everything. Okay. So, without further ado, would you like to introduce the first topic while I grab coffee? Coffee! I need this.
Today's topic is the creation. And so, for those of you who may not know, because you might not, the creation is the story of when the world, the universe, the stars, the heavens, everything was created by God. And we are going with creation, the Christian aspect of it.
Sure.
And we're just going to discuss what the creation means, what are some of the differences that people believe about creation, what are some of the myths. Some people think that it's, all just a made-up story and that evolution happened. And so I think that that's a good place for us to start with our series. And hopefully we'll get some good feedback from you guys.
Right. Um, First things first, I like to call it the 6 day theory. I think that's the thing that really throws people off, if you will. What I would say is that science has, unequivocally disproven that, that this world that we live in was created in 6 days. And I think that that is a foundation of probably every non-believer's argument. Listen, if I open up my Bible and the first thing I see in Genesis chapter 1, is that God made the heavens and earth on the first day, well, actually the light, if you will, which is the sun, and then separating the light from the darkness, and that was day 1, and then day 2 comes the earth, and the land rising up, separating the waters from the waters, etc. as day 2. Okay, let's get something understood here. For those people who stop right there, if you stop at Genesis chapter 1, then I think you're going to miss what I like to call the overarching point. Okay? And what I mean by that is there's a situation here where you have a guy, right, who is not that who's not the world's most articulate guy, and that's Moses. Moses is the author, if you will, of Genesis. And let's get something straight. He could not have written it himself. Again, he's not particularly articulate. What he would have had is scribes who he could describe what was given to him, the information given to him, and the scribe would then write that down in a clear and concise manner.
And some of you may ask, well, how did Moses know he wasn't there?
So, as you all know, in plenty of these Bible stories, you'll find that Moses has a relatively unique relationship with the Creator. In whichever way you want to label the Creator, I can call him God, you can call him Allah, or Yahweh, whatever it is that works for you. Okay? And so, what I would say is, in this relationship that he's had, with God, he was given plenty of information, not just walking up to the top of a mountain and getting the 10 Commandments, if you will. They had plenty of conversations. It didn't just stop there. But in answer to that question, certainly, if I have a one-on-one relationship with God, I'm probably going to ask quite a bit of questions. Well, how did you do this? How did you do that?
Right, and I think that in order to establish a certain relationship, God needed Moses to have certain informations. So in order for you to go forth and teach the word that I need you to teach, you are going to need the information. Who am I? Where did we all come from? What is the meaning? And so I think that those would be some of the first things that he would impart to Moses to give to the other people. Because, and we'll get into this much later, because this is one of my favorite subjects to talk about Moses. Moses, as you said, was not articulate. He was scary. Just plainly said, Moses was scary. He was not confident. He was...
At times.
No, he had to beg for that confidence. He had to beg off many times because he didn't want this task. But we will get into that later.
Okay, so back, the issue of bringing up Moses is just to explain that he is the author of Genesis, and in that the 6-day theory, as is described in the first chapter of Genesis, is a story as told by him. Let me try to be clear about this. The world was absolutely not created in 6 24-hour periods. So let's just stop there, all right? But what you can take from what's being described is the order in which the Creator created things. There's no possible way that Moses or anyone else could have known that at that point in time, except the Creator tell you himself, herself, whatever it is that you believe, right? The order in which it happened. It is not possible for Moses to know such a thing. Science was nowhere near as advanced then as it is now, where we can discern, these so-called 24-hour periods. What Moses was attempting to do was to give a story to the people who would become believers as to who the Creator was and what he did, how he did it, and give them something that they could latch onto. So the number billions of years would not have been a number that they would even have understood at that point in time. You'll find that as you go through the Bible, when a number gets too large, the terminology that's often used is a number as large as the grains of sand. In other words, such numerics were not necessarily available to them then.
These were simple people.
Simple, much more simple than us.
Yes.
At this point, less advanced. So what he tried to do was he tried to he tried to describe to them, this is what happened first, this is what happened second, this is what happened third, and on and on and on. And as you know, we are the sixth day creation. We, people, humanity, are the sixth day creation.
Right.
All right, and in that, what he was trying to do was to give them a period that their minds could accept. All right, and so what I have called it, the most brilliant way to go about the story of creation. It was good enough for them at that time. What I would say is that through the course of time, more and more information will be revealed to us by the Creator as is necessary. We know infinitely more now than we knew then. We are ready to accept more information now than what we were ready to accept then. But yes, I'd be the first to concede that the 6-day theory is a highly flawed thing. Let me also concede this one more thing. I know you want to jump back in. Let me concede this one more thing. I am also, as a Christian, willing to concede that if science did not disprove the 6-day theory, that we Christians would still be running around arguing that this was day one, this was day two. In other words,
and there are several that do. There are several that are steadfast, are going to hold to it.
There is a senator somewhere who just said the Earth is all of 6,000 years old.
Yeah, I saw that.
He is an absolute, I don't even know what to call
buffoon.
Good, thank you. So, having said that, he's wrong, flat out. But more important than that, I am willing to concede that we would still argue that. So, I think science has its place even in Christianity.
Right, and okay, so let me just interject here.
Please.
First, getting on the science thing. I think the problem that science and Christianity have with each other is that both of them have holes in their stories. And the holes doesn't mean that something's not true. It just means it's a missing information. And so with this information being missing from the Bible, science seeks to fill that with scientific evidence. But then there's stuff in the science that you're like, well, how do you disprove what's being said in this book when what you're proving kind of leads to that story? So, in my opinion, and we've discussed this several times, the key to understanding it all is that science and religion go hand in hand.
Well,
when you try to separate them is when you start to have the problems. God is the great scientist in the sky or wherever. And so no one can dispute the chemistry behind, him creating the world. I like to say this a lot of times is that you take the human eye. The human eye is so intricate. Just the eye itself. One thing, that it could not just be an accident. It could not be, boom, we're all here, and this is life, and this is what happens. No, someone took care. Someone took care to say that, okay, this eye is going to see. It's going to take receptors from the brain. And these are things that it just is unfathomable to believe that
a bang
happened, and these very detailed, painstaking, things come to play, and that's just in an eye. You have a whole body that runs on, cells and
nervous system,
yes,
brain,
and the brain and everything.
The complexity of the heart, the very necessary component that the heart is, and how it feeds, life material to all limbs and extremities. The reality
that someone took the time.
Right, just to jump on her point, someone obviously took the time to create this complex set of machinery that is the delicate human body. Having said that, as far as the story of creation, the reason why I am...
Well, I was going to make a point. So, we were discussing, why the 6 days? Why do you need to break it down for people to have something to relate to? 6 days, any amount of time given in the Bible. Let's just get this said in the beginning of the series. Any amount of time given in the Bible is subjective. It is there for the human mind's comfort, because the human mind.
Comprehension. For the
Well,
human-
yes, but also for the comfort, because what the human mind has an issue with is conundrums. If your mind cannot figure something out, if something is too great for your mind, then you're going to
You reject the
not,
whole message, right?
Exactly. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what you're going to do. And so, you take people who, as I said before, are very simple, and who are pretty much infants in the world, and you need them to learn something. So you need to put it in a context that they're going to understand. We understand day one, the sun comes up, the sun goes down.
Right.
We understand day two, same thing happens. So you put it in the context of that, then you humanize it. The
Good
problem
work.
is this:
Very good work.
God is God.
Mm-hmm.
God does not care about anything that happens on this earth in human terms. Meaning, he don't care about our emotions like that. Your individual emotions is not gonna be something that's going to
Affect his vision of the world.
Exactly.
How he goes about his
exactly.
business.
He knows what you need to do, and you may have your trials and tribulations at the time, but he knows what's best for you, long before you know. And so, how do we get these people to understand that, he took this time to create the earth, and this is what he did, and this is how he did it? Okay, well, we humanize it. We give it to them in days. These days are not days, people.
They are not.
They are.
There are periods of time. So
Yes.
in the first period of time,
Think of a day as a block of time,
right,
right?
exactly. And so in that first period of time, what he did was he looked at this void, this darkness, this great big ball of darkness, if you will, and he decided to divide the darkness with some degree of light. And we'll call it the sun, or a sun. There are many suns across many galaxies, but let's just deal in the galaxy that we're in. Okay? So what he does is he puts in place a power source similar to the heart of the human body. Okay? This source of power, this sun, is the most necessary component to sustaining human life, to sustaining life really across this entire globe, if you will. And it is also the very thing that holds this particular galaxy in place, right? As all things revolve around, said sun. Having said that, so the first thing he did was to create a power source for the galaxy to operate, whatever galaxy we're talking about. Okay, so that's day one, if you will.
And as you know, the sun is life.
Right, and so in that, what we know is that Moses described that as day one. It's really just within his first block of time, to piggyback off what you said. That's the first thing that he did. Okay. Now, scientifically speaking, we know that it took 4.5 billion years or so for the Earth to be formed and created as we know it.
And let's just sidebar on that. To take this amount of time, and we know that time is not the same for God as it is for us, but it goes back to the care and the love and the craftsmanship.
Right.
To take that amount of time to build something as beautiful and complex and right now as unique as our Earth,
Right.
and our solar system,
Right.
and our life-giving sun is amazing. That also speaks to God's love.
It does.
He created this uniquely, specifically for us.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Over a period of about 5 billion or so years. And so if you are amongst the first people, if you will, what do you mean 5 billion years? And why does it take so? Listen,
What is billion?
Yeah, right. It's one of those things where it was too complicated a story to give. Let me just say this: if you start on Genesis chapter 1, I'm saying this as a Christian. If you start on Genesis chapter 1 and you stop right there, I assure you, you are doing yourself a disservice. And the reason why I say that is because you'll come to understand as you continue to read through that the issue of time, as my partner just explained, is not describable in terms of days or this or that. They are simply blocks of time with which he does what he does, he being the creator, or she if that's what you believe, okay? Whichever way you believe it. the creator creates, and it takes whatever amount of time. Imagine this: if you're drawing a painting, you might have drawn this painting and you like certain things about it, but you look at it and you say, that's not quite what I wanted. So you scrap that particular painting, you keep what you like, and then you correct what you think you can improve on, and so the painting continues. Well, that's easy to describe why it could take, if you will, 5 billion years. It's about getting it perfect. Imagine a creator being a perfectionist, using the human eye again as your point. The human eye is a work of absolute perfection, from retina to cornea to nerve cells to depth perception to distinguishing between light and darkness, and on and on and on. Listen, if you stop at Genesis chapter 1, you are doing yourself a disservice. We don't have much time. We only aspire to keep you for about a half hour. So the issue of creation is, let me just say this to you as the devout Christian here. There's no question in my mind, right, that the world was not created in 6 days. This we know, okay? And I would tell you that a Christian who is perpetuating that is a Christian whose mind is not open. And we'll get into what's wrong with trying to be a Christian and not having an open mind over the course of the series. Sometimes we're just flat out wrong, okay? Or our understanding of what's being said is flat out wrong, right? So,
and in truth, you should not, as a Christian or as someone who's seeking, out their spirituality, trying to figure out what they're going to believe, don't marry yourself to anything but, the words that were given by God.
right.
If you marry yourself to something like that, then you set yourself up for failure, because you're so married to the concept that you miss the message.
Right.
We have just a few more minutes, but let's just get into the argument quickly of why there is the debate that creation happened, by God, or that it happened by the Big Boom.
I think when you can't see and touch and talk to the creator itself, if that creator is unavailable to you, then you question its very existence, and that is fair. If you read the Bible and it says that XYZ persons have spoken to God, and here you are, and yet you can't, and you really need him to speak to you for the sake of belief, and he is not available to you, you have no choice but to question the very existence of said creator. I would never, as a Christian, argue the pain of a person who desperately wants to talk to God, who does not make himself available to that very person. I don't see any words of comfort that you can give to that person in terms of why he isn't talking to you specifically.
Well, I think that people have to also understand, and this is something we'll get into later, but I think people have to also understand that, as we said, these are simpler times. And in those times, he needed them to see him. He needed to be an ever-present,
Omnipotent force.
Thank you. And so, yes, you need to hear my voice. This is the burning bush. I'm gonna send my angels to you. Well, he did that, and also give his only son, so that it laid the groundwork for today. And in majority, it has worked. Most of us don't need to see him, because I feel like you carry God in your soul. And this is another discussion that we'll get into much later. But when he created us with the soul, this is my theory, when he created us with the soul, he left a piece of himself inside of us. And that piece of himself is a pathway to the way.